Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Unexplained Archives. I am one of your co-hosts, Jen.
Hi, and I'm Jaime. Welcome back. Thanks so much for listening.
Yes, thank you. And this is Timber. For those,
Yep,
for those who are listening
Timber.
and can't see, we have our Timber has been with us pretty much every week,
Yeah,
making cameos.
he's our podcat.
Yeah, there we go. Good one. We got
He's our mascot.
everyone. You people come in for the paranormal. We got jokes too. It's good. It's all good.
We try anyway.
Right,
We try
right.
to joke.
The one thing that I always bothers me is like they call them dad jokes. Everything the dads
Yeah,
get all the credit for the jokes.
right.
I feel like there need to be mom jokes.
Yeah, they're due. They're
Yeah.
due. Yeah, they're due.
Yeah, they're due.
I'm not
Yeah.
from Arkansas.
So yeah, I feel like there needs to be more mom jokes. So
I
that
do
was an
too.
excellent mom joke, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Yeah.
So how
I appreciate it.
has your week been going?
It's good, busy as always. Not quite as exciting as last week, but I always meet some interesting people, I feel like, throughout the week.
Yeah.
We had a new subscriber to our podcast, and they were in my car. And so they were really interested and couldn't wait to listen to the rest of the episode when they got home, because of course I was listening to it in the car. And so I asked them if they had ever had any paranormal experiences, and they said yes. When they were a kid, they were in their room and they saw a ghost, actually two ghosts. It was a farmer. It was the shadow shape of a farmer chasing a pig.
No. Stop.
Yeah. And I was like,
Wow.
wow, that is the most unique ghost apparition that I've heard of.
Yeah, I think so too.
But it would be scary. I'm not going to say, I mean, it seems a
well,
little comical, like
yes.
saying it,
Yeah.
but I can imagine that being terrifying as a child.
Oh yeah, for sure. When you're a kid and you see things like that, absolutely. That is the most unique I've ever heard, because it's rare that you hear, I mean, I hear the stories of like ghost animals.
Yeah.
It happens. I mean, why wouldn't it? But to see them together, that's pretty rare.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, that's good. Well, thank
And
you.
I can't stop seeing it. I mean, I'm
it's
thinking of the shadow on the wall of a farmer chasing a pig. And I don't know how I'd react to that if I was a kid. So if you're listening, that is the most unique ghost story I've heard.
Yeah.
So
that is really something. Yeah. Thank you. I'm so glad. I love that people are sharing.
Yeah.
We're going to have to do like a show with you, kind of like Taxi Cab Confessions, but
yeah,
like paranormal stories.
Yeah, right? We should do it.
People riding in the car and they just start telling their ghost stories.
Maybe we can do that as a special episode.
I think we should. That would be so fun. Yeah.
I'll try to collect some along the way.
Okay.
So if anybody has any stories, to share.
We would love more stories. Like, I know you and I keep hearing, like, people will just tell us little things here and there.
Yeah.
Know what we're doing now. So we're getting different little things, but that would be really interesting to get people to, like, you get people writing with you and they're just like, yeah, let me tell you my story about
I love it. I love hearing the stories. It's great.
That's so cool. That's cool. Well, speaking of paranormal, we have a little something different this week. There may have been the first spotting of 2025 of Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster. Yep. Somebody had spotted I guess it was more kind of like a black mass that was kind of seen underwater. And it was kind of beneath the water near, I think you pronounce it Doors Beach, which is in Scotland. The person who took the photos turned them over to the Loch Ness Center in Inverness. There's actually a Loch Ness Center where people turn over their things when they see the Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they said the occurrence actually took place over quite a few minutes. So they saw it, and it was kind of like, so there is a picture. We're going to post it on our Instagram so you can see it. It's just kind of like something just raised just a little bit enough out of the water. You can see that there were some waves that day. So it's, I mean, whatever it is, it's just kind of below the surface. But they think this is the real, maybe one of the best sightings so far this year.
Wow, great.
Yeah, I know. So, what are your thoughts on the Loch Ness Monster?
Oh, I don't know. I've been back and forth on it. I definitely think there's something there. There wouldn't, because I've actually done a little research on it too, and I think there's been like just since let me just back up a little. So they started a sightings register
Yeah.
for Loch Ness in 1996. That was started by Gary Campbell, I think. And so just since 1996, there's been 1,141 sightings.
Yep.
So I mean, there's something there. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But there's something there. So
yeah. I mean, definitely lots of theories on what it could be,
Right.
A fish, a very large fish, overgrown.
Right.
I mean, I have to imagine whatever it is, there's more than one, because the sightings, date back incredibly. I mean, I think centuries ago.
Yeah, it was like 5. I looked that up too, but I can't remember. It was very, very early though.
Yeah,
very, very, very early. Like ancient time.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And sometimes I wonder, if it's like a dinosaur-esque, creature that kind of got lost or, stayed behind whenever all the other dinosaurs kind of died off. I mean, we do have things today that are still connected to dinosaurs. I mean, we've got alligators, which they're the reason I don't move to Florida, is because they're dinosaurs. Like,
they are dinosaurs. I agree.
I don't do alligators at all. I don't like them. I don't want to be near them. But they're dinosaurs. So I'm not gonna mess with them. That's kind of how I feel about Loch Ness. Like, I think the people who go out on boats out there are so brave, because if this thing decides to really come out of the water one day, I mean, it could knock you right in. I don't know.
I mean, maybe there's more than one. Maybe this thing. Maybe there's a lot of them, and they just keep.
Yeah, they're having little Nessie babies.
Yeah, little Nessie babies. It's Nessie 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah. It's like George Foreman naming all his babies like George something.
Yeah.
They're all little baby Nessies. But I have to imagine there's more than one. It's not the same one that's been around this whole time. Whatever. I mean, Loch Ness is not like the ocean. We haven't explored everything in the ocean yet. So like new things could be discovered all the time.
That's true. Yeah.
But what I find interesting about that area is that there's cameras set up. I think I heard how many webcams they have going, like at all times, constantly watching for things. I mean, you've got people around there specifically looking for Nessie, and it's just surprising to me that we haven't gotten like a real good clear view. No one has gone under and come face to face.
Yeah,
but
it's such a mystery.
It is a mystery. But I'm with you. If something exists, it's something. It's something. I mean, I know some of the photos and evidence that have gone back for. I mean, some of it's definitely been proven to not be real. But some of it is real. So there's something.
Yeah, I love it. I love the mystery of it, because I mean, you would think by now they would have it figured out with all the equipment they have, I mean, they can figure out things in the ocean. Like, why can they not figure out Nessie?
This thing. Yeah.
And how big is this thing supposed to be? How big is Nessie supposed to be?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, some of the,
like a bus, like the size of a bus.
Possibly. I mean, I started doing research after I heard about this particular sighting. I mean, there's some really good stuff out on the internet where they actually have aerial views of some things that are pretty interesting. You can kind of see it below the surface. If it's real or not, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's certainly interesting. But yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be just absolutely huge.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
once again, why
Yeah.
is something so large? Like, why hasn't anybody like
I
really, really?
know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, I've heard reports of there being like catfish as big as a
Right.
Volkswagen Bug,
Yeah,
um
yeah, yeah,
before in
yeah,
rivers, but
yes,
so there's creatures, there's some,
yeah,
it's out there, but what is Nessie? I wish I
yeah.
knew.
I wish I knew too. I actually
Yeah.
think the Loch Ness monster is actually one of the first cryptids that kind of grabbed my attention. Like I
Yeah.
remember being a kid and feeling really interested about the Loch Ness monster.
Yeah, me too.
So
Yeah.
it's always been kind of fun to follow. And who knows?
Uh-huh.
Maybe the fun of it is that we never know what it is. Maybe it's just
Right.
that constant chasing and figuring out what it could be. So yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
And it's
yeah.
too bad it's not one of those things where you can just show up and be guaranteed to see it,
Oh,
because
I
I would
know,
love to just show up at Loch Ness and,
right?
you
And
know,
boom, it is.
do my own research and see it, but it just
Yeah,
doesn't work that way.
it doesn't.
So,
Fortunately, it does
no.
not. But yeah, that would be such a beautiful trip anyway. I've never been to that part of the world, so I think it would be
Yeah.
see.
I've
But
been to
yeah,
Ireland, but not
oh, no.
Scotland.
Okay,
So,
all right.
it's on
Well,
my list.
yeah, it's on mine as well. So I don't know. All right, vacation time, Jamie.
Woo! Let's go. We have so
Not
many
gonna.
things on our list now
I
to
know we really
to
do.
explore.
To do, yeah.
It just keeps getting bigger every week.
The more we
Yep.
talk about stuff, the more we're like, okay, we're gonna go do
Yeah.
that. We're
We gotta go there. We gotta go to all these places.
gonna, right? Well, good. All right.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I just wanted to give like a quick update from last week's show. In the beginning of last week's show, we did talk about Ghost Adventures, Aaron Goodwin's situation, his wife's murder for hire. And I did get an update. So Aaron has officially filed for divorce, which I,
Okay,
I
as he
don't think.
should.
Yep. I don't think any of us are shocked on that one.
Right. No shock there.
No shock there. The one thing I wish I knew, I haven't heard like an update if anyone has posted bail for her. I would be really interested. She is on $100,000 bond.
Mm,
I don't know if she knows anybody that could bail her out, but yeah, I find this story like I think it's so crazy, and so I feel like I'm kind of following it as it goes, and I feel like I want to give little updates as we hear more because
yeah, I love it.
it's gonna unfold like crazy
Yeah.
during the.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I think our hearts go out to Aaron for sure, and
Yes.
I think everyone is just really happy that he's okay and nothing ended up happening. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
It's
so that
such a scary thing. I can't even imagine.
no, I can't either. Like what a shock.
I know. I mean, and the trauma, the
Yeah,
the aftermath of this, like he's it's I don't
yeah,
know. I don't know how I would move on with my life without constantly looking over my shoulder, I
that's
feel like.
exactly right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because I haven't heard anything about the person who was actually hired to do this. I have to assume that they've been arrested too, but I haven't heard that at all. And
Mm-mm.
I don't know if anything. I mean, Grant Amata is in jail no matter what. Like he's in prison, and so. But I don't. I mean, do you get penalized for something like that? I don't know how that works.
Yeah. I mean, do they add to his sentence? Does he have to go? I mean, what do they do?
Yeah,
How does
I
that
have no
work?
idea. Especially when you are in for life. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe they just don't even bother. They're like, you're in here, but maybe he had to spend some time in solitary or something. Because I mean, he
Maybe.
had a cell phone. You're not supposed to have a cell phone.
Right.
So I have to assume he got punishment for just that alone. But
Right.
yeah, but I think his lady friend is probably going to be doing the same thing he is. I mean, probably not
Hmm.
for the rest of her life. That's the sad thing. Is people like when the murders actually don't go through. I mean, you don't. It's rare to get a life sentence. I don't even know if it
Right.
happens because you haven't actually committed a murder, so you can't. You're definitely not going away for murder, but to plot a murder, you
Right.
know, she probably won't necessarily do a ton of time. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just so disturbing. I can't even imagine.
No, I can't either. I can't either. So, but we're so glad Aaron is doing,
Yes.
he's okay. I don't want to say he's
He's
doing great.
alive.
He's
He's
alive.
alive. And
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Taking
Absolutely.
steps to get away from this person. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. And I'm
yeah.
glad. So I was really glad to hear that. We all figured he was probably going to, but I didn't know how quick. Because here's the thing: I checked his Instagram because when I heard about this, I thought, oh, I want to. Did he delete all the pictures of her? Because that's what I would do. I would be like, I want no trace of someone like this,
Right.
anywhere in my pictures. But last I looked, the pictures of them were still up. So I wasn't sure how quick he would be to, handle a lot of this stuff. So I don't know. I don't know if he takes them down, if he leaves them.
I don't know. Maybe he just hasn't had the heart to go back on social media right now, or
That's probably a lot of it too. Because yeah, there's probably a lot going on right now. So
true.
Yeah, but we'll keep our listeners posted on the Aaron Goodwin situation. I just find it. So yeah, we'll give you some.
I love it. Thanks for doing that update. I was a little behind as always.
No, it's okay. Well,
so
now
I appreciate the update.
Well, how all the algorithms work, you type it in once and you look up one video and then all of a sudden they keep coming. So I'm like,
that's true.
I can't help it. I keep looking. So yeah.
I know it. That's awesome.
Yeah. So today's show is going to be, I don't know, maybe a little bit different than some of our other shows. We're going to talk a little bit about, last week we talked a little bit about your haunting situation. But we're going to talk a little bit about some of mine, and we brought in a special guest today. So my daughter Gaby is joining us today to talk about some of her experience with the paranormal. And we just thought it'd be kind of fun. We're still kind of early in on the show, and we thought it'd be kind of fun to share like some of the things that brought us to this point, to why we wanted to do a podcast, why we want to talk about these types of things. So we thought today would be kind of a fun day to talk about some of our paranormal stories. So
yes, I love it.
Yeah,
I'm so excited. I've been wanting to hear more of yours, so this is perfect.
Good deal.
Yeah.
So today we welcome my daughter Gaby.
Woohoo!
Hello.
Hi, Gaby.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Long time no see.
I know, right?
Welcome. It's great.
Yeah. So how are you feeling about being on the show today?
I'm nervous.
Okay, yes,
nervous.
that's natural.
Yeah.
That's okay. We'll get you warmed up.
Yeah.
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 You're going to do great. I can't wait to hear some of your stories.
It's
going to be awesome.
It's been quite a road. It's crazy. It's wild.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So for me, like, I just figured like I would share with everybody. I don't actually talk about this a whole lot just because I always feel like people are going to think I'm crazy. But here we are doing an entire podcast on it. So I thought, why not? Let's just talk about it all. So, I've actually been seeing ghosts since I was a child. I was probably, as young as 3, I can remember seeing spirits that would actually have conversation with me. Like, I remember it very clearly. I had a particular female spirit that lived. She was just in our house that I was growing up in. And that house, my very first house I lived in, we always had some paranormal experiences in there. It was just kind of normal. Like, it would just happen, things disappearing, or like in particular time, I remember behind our sofa, I heard like just a music box music just start playing, and there was no music box there, just things like that. but very clearly at a young age, I remember a female spirit who would come and she would get me out of bed. She would come and wake me up. And everything I remember, she was very solid. But she
Ooh.
always, she wore almost like what I would now, looking back at it now, I would consider like pioneer clothing. I just remember very, high collared shirt and like blouse and long skirt. And she always had her hair pulled back in a bun. And I don't really remember our conversations, but I remember her like pulling me, like, telling me to get up, and we would go out into like our hallway area and she would just talk. I mean, I remember like having to look up at her because she was so much taller than I was.
Wow.
Yeah. And she would
And
talk.
how old were you, did you say?
I
About
was
what
probably
age?
4 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know people will be like, "Oh, how do you have memories back then?" I actually have memories that can go back even further than that. I don't know why. I actually just watched this really cool video on people who literally can remember everything that happened to them their entire life. There's a very small percentage of humans that can do this. They can remember everything, included being in the womb. They have memories of it. So I don't think it's super far-fetched that I have memories as a toddler. I even have some memories of being an infant, and I confirm these with my parents. Like I remember when I saw this woman, I remember telling my parents about it. Even as a kid, I would say, and they were very much like, "That's nice," blowing it off, Jennifer's got an imaginary friend type deal.
Uh-huh.
And so, but as an adult, as I was still having these very vivid memories of this happening, I talked to both my parents about it. And I said, "Do you guys remember me talking to you about it?" And they said, "Yeah, we remember you telling us all these things." And I said, "Well, good." I said, "It was very real. I'm like, it happened." It totally happened. And they were like, "Okay." Like, they believed me. But I don't talk about it a whole lot just because I don't expect people to believe me, being so young and seeing something like that.
Right.
I remember there was another spirit in the house. I don't remember what they look like, but I remember them trying to teach me how to float down the stairs like they do. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
It's like you had a ghost nanny and
Yeah.
then a
Yeah.
floating instructor.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
Exactly. Yeah. I just remember it so clearly. I remember, and it was a male. I remember hearing a male voice and
Huh.
just trying to teach me how to do it like they do it. And nothing ever felt like bad or sinister about any of it. But as I grew up, I don't think at the time I understood. They seemed like real people. Like I would tell my parents, like, "Hey, there are these people like coming into that." And it was always at night. It was always at night. And so, yeah. But as I got older, I mean, I didn't see them as much as I got older, but occurrences were happening in the house. And I do remember at one point in my life going like, "I don't really want to see or hear this anymore." Like it got scary after a while. And I really felt like I just shut it off. Like I just was like turning it off. Like I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear it. I just don't want to deal with it anymore. And we moved out of that house when I was 15. My parents had divorced, and I had moved with my mom to another house. And so, and my dad didn't live in that house. We sold that house. I'd be so curious to see if the people who own it today have experienced anything like that. But I haven't really checked. But yeah, so growing up, I have always believed in the paranormal because I feel like I've seen it. So many people say, "Well, I've never seen it, so it doesn't exist." And I think on several occasions I've seen it. And I think even if I didn't have those experiences, some of the other experiences I've had, I would still believe in it. But I think that as a child, having seen what I've seen, like I fully believe it's real. And so I wanted Gaby to come in today too, because Gaby has had lots of experiences as well with the paranormal. And I thought, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's like, does this pass down from generation to generation?
I
I
don't
don't know
know.
how it works.
I don't know. I mean, talking about the house that you lived in and then
Mhm.
your experiences and wondering if the people after you lived there experienced anything, it just brings back that question of, is it haunted places or haunted people,
People,
you
for sure.
know.
Yeah.
Are people just a little more sensitive? Some people a little more sensitive to these things. So someone could live in the same house, like my house, so that was so haunted,
Mhm.
you know, and I've heard not the same feedback from other people, little things here and there, but not as extreme as when I lived there. So it's that question is, are we haunted people, or are we sensitive, or is it a haunted place? Like what is it?
Yeah.
I love these mysteries. I want to figure it out, but who knows if we will.
Yeah, I know. That's the hard part. Yeah, for sure. Um, so Gabby, do you want to tell us a little bit about like your experience or how everything kind of began with you? Maybe some of the gifts that you have, like if you want to talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I know we have a family friend who is gifted as well, and she used to watch me as a baby. And she would always say that, when she would see orbs of light, I would follow them as well. So I think that was honestly like the earliest experience I ever knew about. I don't remember it. But that was definitely probably the earliest experience. Um, and then I think it was always like new age practice was always kind of like around our house.
Yeah.
Like we always like went to psychic readings and things like that. So I think as I grew up, it was just like it was definitely an intrigue and just like a lifestyle. But when I graduated high school, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I did not want to go to college. I was not prepared for all of that. So, we had gone to another family friend of ours who read tarot for me, and he was like, you can do this, right? Like you don't need cards. You can just read people on the spot. He's like, go ahead, try reading me. And I was able to do it pretty quickly. And I would say, like, I feel like it definitely was not far from the tree. I feel like, mom, you're really good at that. And then,
Mhm.
papa, your dad, I mean,
Yeah.
I tell you what, you get on his bad side and he will bring up every childhood trauma you ever had and you don't know where it comes from. It's it's wild. It's wild. So I think we all have that little gift in us. But we really started to push it when I was out of school, and I would practice readings on people just to see. We would host free parties for me to get practice. Um, and we would just have like family friends that I didn't know too well, but you know, knew them by name, so I was able to kind of work with them and they were comfortable with it. Um, and from that event, we were able to go to our family friend's school. She owns a school. And we were able to do a little research there that I know we'll kind of
Yeah.
talk about.
Our first investigation, really.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was it was interesting. I remember at the reading, people come in wanting something specific sometimes with readings, and that unfortunately is just not how it works. um, so I kept seeing this very tall woman with long black hair. It was almost like she was dripping wet. It was quite scary. And we didn't know where she came from or how she was connected. I just remember seeing her, as if she was looking in a bathroom mirror. And then we ended up going to the school, and I, was kind of traveling around, and I was like, this looks familiar. This bathroom looks familiar. And I ended up seeing her in there. Yeah, the school actually used to be a hospital. It used to be like a
Yeah.
doctor's office, and there was like a
Yeah.
couple of practices in this building.
Yes. Yeah. And that friend of mine ended up purchasing that. And, we don't want to, we're not going to use her name. We're not going to say the business because we don't want anyone to get scared off by, the activity that does go on there. But it's definitely an active place. And I think was so fascinating about it is we had to look because we thought, why? It just seemed like when we went there, there were so many different types of people and from different eras almost. And it's like, why are they all here? And like the building, I think we looked was built in like 1981.
Yeah, it was pretty recent. It wasn't old at all, really.
Yeah.
No historical value to even the property that it was on. It was
Yeah.
just, yeah, just a
Yeah.
plot.
And during that reading that you had, the group reading and the friend who owns the school, there was a situation where you were getting visions of a woman with a set of china.
Yep. Yes. Yeah. So when we ended up going to the school, she would purchase a lot of things from yard sales, or antique stores, and then everybody was able to use the stuff. And I had found this wall of china and small plates, and this woman was still attached to her plates, to her china, and she was furious that kids were playing with such valuable pieces.
Oh,
She was not happy at all. And I remember, I can't even remember what we said, but I was like, oh, she's pretty upset that the kids are touching it. And then you just hear the plates shift because they were all stacked up on each other, and you just hear like,
oh, wow.
yeah. And
This is like the third time I've gotten chills during this conversation. You're just getting started. So, oh,
Yeah.
it is. Oh, and I feel like, with her thrifting as many items as she did, it's so sad to see how many people can't let go of their things.
Yeah.
Like they truly will take it to the grave.
Yes.
And you can't move on from that, and you can't, experience that other side with God. So it's definitely interesting to see how many things traveled in with something else.
Yeah.
When we went there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, didn't you kind of, I don't know if you heard it, something to the effect that the woman was like, she would rather break the china than have other people touching it.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
was breaking too. Like, was that like, I think our friend had experienced it breaking before, or like you said, it was like had shifted while we were there. Like she would rather have it broken instead of anyone else touching it.
Yeah, they had it on some shelves that were hooked on a wall, and so they would find pieces broken or moved. Yeah. So
Mhm.
she was very, very upset with it.
Yeah.
Oh, don't ever let me get that attached to anything.
yeah, that's crazy.
It's wild. So
I
yeah,
wonder how possessive she was in real life if she's that possessive over her china
right.
Yeah.
in the afterlife. That's
Right.
crazy.
That place was yeah, it's really interesting. And I know the friend of mine had told me, she had herself had experienced things, before we had come along. And it's like a two-story building, so the downstairs, there's an upstairs, huge. And there was stuff going on downstairs, but I think most of the activity was kind of upstairs. So when we had first gotten there, I think Gaby had kind of got a sense for a little girl that was there. I While Gaby was trying to pick up on this little girl, I was kind of standing there. I had a camera and I was running it. And then my friend, who is the sensitive, she's not the one who owned the school, but she had come, and the one who would talk to Gaby. She's the one who watched Gaby when she was a baby. And so she was there, and I'm standing there, and all of a sudden I could feel like a poke, like in my rear end.
Oh,
Like it was like boop, boop, like right in my booty cheek. And
wow.
I mean, and I look over to my friend and I said, "Is there someone behind me?" And she looks behind me and she goes, "Yeah, there's a little boy behind you." Like, yeah,
Oh,
he could see the spirit of a little boy. And so I don't know if he was trying to like get my attention, but I thought, what a little kid thing to do.
It
Yeah.
is. It
Yeah.
is. I know
Like,
my
hey.
kids have like poked me trying to get my attention, you know?
Yeah. And it did. It felt like a little finger poking right in the rear end. Yeah. And so, but I swear we asked the little girl about the little boy. Didn't she say she was kind of
Oh,
annoyed with him or
they
something?
were, yeah. I don't think they were siblings, but she was, it always seemed like she was just over his nonsense.
Oh,
Yeah.
how funny.
Yeah. And
She was
she,
the more serious one and he was the
Yeah.
prankster, probably.
yeah.
Yeah. But I remember the little girl wanting to go where the dolls were. Yeah, I think Gabby had kind of picked up, like, she wanted to go play with the baby dolls, but she said she didn't want to go down the hall because there was a not a very nice man
Ooh.
to the hall, so she didn't want to go. But Gabby had said, well, let's go. You can follow me. And we brought like a doll to the area where she, supposedly kind of stayed. And but we did go down the hall to where the man that scared her was. It was kind of like they used it as like a book room, I think, at the time. And so, Gabby, can you share some of your experience of what you picked up with that particular spirit?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember, so the owner of the school came with us and she traveled around with us. And I remember mom and her seeing somebody peek at the end of the hallway. Um, and so I'd gone into that room. Um, and sometimes things can hide from me, so I still peek as if someone truly is hiding from me. And I was able to find it in the corner, and it was very bitter. It was a very bitter thing. I can't
Jamie's like,
yeah, I always struggle with spirits or energy that is angry sometimes, because what I've found is that their anger can be so large that it makes them bigger, it makes the cloud bigger, it makes them darker.
Ooh.
So it's hard for me sometimes to tell if it's demonic and it's hiding and it can only hide for so long, or if it's an actual person. But at the start it appeared to be a man, and then I sat down on the floor to just kind of intimidate it and just kind of let them know that I wasn't leaving. And then that's when it got larger and taller. And
Oh.
yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
Man,
And
you're
unfortunately,
brave.
it was, it, I tell you what, it scared me.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. And, the unfortunate part is that when we started this, you know, we knew of God, but we weren't, asking him for protection. We weren't
Right.
listening to God with this. So we ended up, um, you know, having things follow us home because we're not coming into the space with a plan, with this protection, with this,
yeah,
with the
win.
spirit, really
Yeah.
covering us. And so we ended up going home, and this thing basically turned into like a dark mass. Like
Mhm.
its behavior was so angry. We would walk through the kitchen and you would feel nauseous.
Yeah.
You would
Oh.
feel sick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could walk right in, and I thought I would throw up every time I would go in the kitchen. And then I could leave. I would be like, I don't feel good. And I would go in the other room and I would feel fine.
Fine.
And then I would try and come back in again, and I would be like, oh my God, I'm sick. And I don't know at what point we realized like that it came back with us. We definitely, and if I can be honest, this was in the house that we just moved from last year. I personally don't think it ever left. I think it was always there. I think it's still there. We've had lots of experiences with that particular entity. I know, just like what, if I can piggyback on what Gabby was saying about it getting larger, I know a time I was cooking in the kitchen and I could feel it. And this is something I, I can do and listen, everyone can, but when someone is like close to you, next to you,
Mm-hmm.
you can feel
Mm-hmm.
that. You can feel a person's energy, right?
Right.
And so I do when I go on, some of these investigations, that's the one thing, one of the first things that happens to me is I feel like if someone is nearby. But I remember one time being in the kitchen cooking, and this thing was behind me, and I could feel it, and I could feel it being as big as what Gaby was saying. Like, it felt like it was just towering over me. And yeah, I mean, not really doing anything, but you could just feel it. It was almost like an intimidation tactic. I
Right.
felt
It was
for that thing.
oppressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. I had actually gotten scratched by it at one point. It's just like how, if you watch the shows, like people are like, oh, I've been scratched.
Mhm.
And it's like suddenly it starts as like a burn. Like, I remember because I had taken a nap and I woke up to my ankle burning. And when I looked,
Oh,
like a large scratch across my ankle. And it was not, it was definitely not like a cat scratch, or anything like that. And it was one. Like, if the cats were crazy, I would have felt them running over me or something
right.
like that. But I woke up to this burning feeling on my ankle, and I feel pretty confident it was that guy.
Oh,
Yeah, and even the little girl had followed us home, at least for a little while. I think eventually she went back, but it was the very next day after that investigation. I was like laying in bed. It was that morning after. I was laying in bed. I was awake, but just laying there, not ready to get out of bed. But I had my back to what would be my closet, and I felt my shirt get pulled up behind me,
wow.
and I felt like someone was tickling me, like little
Oh,
fingers were tickling
yeah.
my back, and then put my shirt back down again.
Wow.
I don't know if I've ever been so frozen in my whole life. Like that, I was like, what? That scared me so much.
Oh,
But I think it was, and then later I told Gabby about it. And I think, because Gabby's abilities were like so much better. And I think even still so much better than anything I can do. But, she had said, she was like, I think that little girl came back with us, and that's what it felt. It felt like a little kid, just, trying to
mhm.
tickle. And yeah, but my shirt was, I felt someone pulling it up and like tickling my back and then pulled it back down again. Yeah.
Wow. I've experienced similar things,
Have you?
but
Okay.
it'll come out when we talk about all
Yeah.
that later, but
Yeah.
I can totally
Yeah.
relate.
Yeah. Yeah. So I definitely feel like that place it was just, I don't know, there's a lot of energy in that place for
Yeah.
sure. A lot of spirits.
Whew,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm having like solid chills through this whole episode. Goosebumps.
Right?
Goosebumps
Yeah.
on goosebumps.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think so. One of the things that kind of got me back into any of this, because there was a long period where I just ignored it. I didn't want to know about it. I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to have anything to do with it. But I had met my now ex-boyfriend in 2020. And like most people, a lot of people had a lot of time on their hands during 2020. And so I think he is the one who kind of got me back into, being a little more interested in like the ghost aspect of stuff. And I'll tell you why. He had said, and he lived in a older home, and he had said, I think my house is haunted. And I was like, no way. And so he would tell me some of the things that were happening in the house. And one of the things that he had a fan that was always going. He said, I wake up every day and my fan is completely turned around facing the other way. It's not on me anymore. And I experienced that with him too. And I would sometimes watch it. I'm like, is that thing just moving so fast? It's making it turn itself completely around. But
Wow.
it was just a stand up oscillating fan. And he wouldn't even have it oscillating. It was just, there. But you'd wake up in the morning and it was completely facing the wall. He
What?
had,
Weird.
I know. Yeah. He had experienced being pushed, usually in his bed. He would be, pushed around a little bit. He would sometimes hear things going on. And so, he really kind of got me back into being interested in this, and we started watching, more documentaries and more shows on this. And Gaby had come to the house, and this was around the same time, Gaby was really kind of finding her abilities too. So, do you want to share like some of the stuff like you felt when you came over to his house?
Yeah, I know we had done like we had brought a few. Well, I know Nicole was there, right?
Yeah, my friend Nicole joined us at one point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Put a
And
little
then,
team together at one point.
yeah, just to kind of see everything.
Yeah.
But I remember one of the first times I came over before we brought the team, I had come up to the house, and like the side of my face before I had entered the house was extremely hot. And then I kind of had looked over, and so like with what I can do is I can pretty much have all five senses. So like I see things, I hear things, I can smell. Um
All the
Sometimes like I
claras.
taste, yeah, all that fun stuff. And then I used to be able to kind of, I guess they call it like, I don't know, there was a name for it, but basically like you can travel from one place to another. You can see
Oh,
and kind of
astral
walk about.
projection.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I had seen when I had turned that this house was on fire. But in actuality, there was just an empty plot of land, but it looked so small that I was like, oh, there, I don't think there would have been a house there.
Yeah.
So I
Next
had,
to this was next to his house. Like
yes,
the
next to his
area next to his house. Yeah.
and there ended up being a while ago, a house that had burnt down, um, so many years ago. So we had kind of seen that. And then there was quite a few things in his house. Um, I know there was a demonic presence down in the basement. Um, I know there was one upstairs, and that's kind of when we decided to bring the team in, was to see, what we could
How
get.
it's pick up.
Yeah. And I will say, with demonic energy, demons are they're quite lazy. So they want to find things, they want to find people that are, easy to pick off. So, taking care of your mental health, taking care of your physical health, being in the word, those are things that keep you protected. And unfortunately, with her ex that lived there, like he was experiencing like PTSD. There was
Yeah.
just some underlying things.
Military.
Was in the military.
Yeah. He had a lot of experiences. And I do think a lot of people who have like that type of experience, like I do think they can be very susceptible, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's just good to catch that and take care of that, for your own sake, whether you believe or not. It just can really eat you up. So unfortunately, a lot was invading his house, and you could tell that when I came in, um, he was starting to become more on edge. He was getting irritated. At
Yeah.
one point, everybody was setting up the equipment, and I don't really touch the equipment. I just kind of like pace and walk around. And at one point, he grabbed a screwdriver and he started pretending to stab me with it. He would, yeah. And he was like, could happen.
What?
Yeah.
Oh.
I will say during this investigation, his behavior changed.
He was quite
It,
irritated.
it wasn't good. Like his whole
That
demeanor.
is so scary though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think when we kind of had started on the upstairs, I mean it started like, I mean, not that big of a deal. But at first we kind of saw a couple of orbs through the cameras, things like that. But
Mhm.
Gaby was able to get some like more of a vision of what was up there.
Yeah. So I was wearing my rosary. I made sure to protect myself this time. Um,
We learned eventually.
I did learn. Yep. And I remember sitting on his bed just to kind of look around. And again, like if they're hiding from me, I know that they're there, but I can't always see them. And he was so irritated. He was like, "You need to get off the bed." He's like, you need to go sit somewhere else. And I was like, okay. So I go to sit on the floor, and there under the bed were two huge glowing red lights. Like that's what it looked like almost, but it was a demon, and his eyes were bright red.
Oh my gosh.
And
Wow.
you know, as the Bible said, like they're not nice creatures.
Right.
They're very irritable. They are angry. They are chaos. So it was throwing a tantrum as if it was a toddler. Like it
Mhm.
was livid that I was there. And I was like, well, okay, found it. There it is. And he in turn was getting irritated. So you could see how much of an influence that they had on his
Yeah.
behavior.
Yeah.
Um, and there was a chest in the house. It was like a cabinet in his room, almost like a little dresser. And immediately knew. I was like, this should not be here. I was like, I think it was shipped over. And then we found out that his dad brought it over from England for him. And it was just not, it should not have been there. So there was definitely irritation in the house. There was a feeling of not wanting to be healed, just to kind of like eat away at him, basically. And unfortunately, the hard part is that if you don't want the healing, if you're not going to take the steps to get the healing, there's nothing that you know will work. Like, I can pray over you, but if you don't want it,
Yeah,
then
there's much you
you know
can do.
there's not too much I can do. And that's not to say, anything about my ability. I don't, all things can happen through God. It's just, it's tough when you don't necessarily believe it to be true, but you invite us over to take it. So, there was definitely some crazy things. Unfortunately, I do feel like they're still in the house. Um,
Yeah,
you know,
I think there definitely is. In fact, it wasn't that long ago that I did speak with him, and so mimicking was kind of a thing that was going on a lot in that house.
yeah,
He experienced it many times. He would hear like his daughter sneeze like in the next room, and she wasn't home. He would hear people calling him, and not there. And from what I understand, he can hear me, like my voice there, talking to him or calling him. I know that he'll be upstairs and he can hear conversation downstairs, and he thinks it's his kids, but no one's home. Um, and what's interesting about that is I had never experienced anything like a mimic. So basically, a mimic would be anything that can pretty much do the voice of anyone you know. Sometimes people will see things like they think they see a loved one in their house, and they go, but they're not there. But they've taken on like the appearance or like the sound of their voice. And so that was happening a lot at his house. And a couple occasions that was happening at my house when he was around. So we kind of thought it's possible whatever it is may have a bit of an attachment to him. Because I heard it. Like, he was there at my house, but he was at the other end of the house, and I was in my room, and I could hear what sounded like, it almost sounded like it was coming from outside, but I heard him. His voice was a little distorted, but it was his voice. He's got a very distinct voice, so I know it was him. And he had said, I heard like, "Hey, honey," and I was, well, that's not right. So I did call to him, and I said, "Did you call me?" And he said, "No, I didn't." I'm like, "Okay," like, but it clearly was. And then he had heard me in my home when I wasn't home either. So it's possible whatever he's got going on does kind of go with him.
yeah,
Um, which could also sometimes, I know I've talked about my current home situation, and he lived here with us too. And I mean, I think that could explain some of the things we may have experienced in the house as well. Totally possible. But I know on that particular night of that investigation at his house, I had never seen his mood change nearly as much as it did that night. the girls had stayed upstairs and they were getting some EVPs. They were kind of doing like an EVP session up there, and we had come downstairs. So just me and my ex-boyfriend, we were downstairs. And it was strange because I just kind of was sitting at the kitchen table and I was kind of like looking off into the other rooms, and I noticed him pacing. He just was pacing back and forth. We were in the kitchen. He's pacing back and forth. I just kind of was, I don't know, it just wasn't occurring to me like how much he was pacing at the time. But then I finally kind of looked up and he just kind of seemed agitated. And then I remember he kind of went to go get a drink of water, and I'm still kind of like looking into the other room, but I got that like feeling like someone's looking at me. And I remember looking over at him, and I remember him drinking from his cup, and I remember him like staring at me. Just the look that he gave me, like, gave me chills. Like, I was legitimately afraid in that moment. He looked like he wanted to kill me. I mean that. Like, he looked so mad. And I just said, "Are you okay?" And he said, "No." And I said, "What's wrong?" He said, "I'm really angry." I said, "Okay." I said, what are you angry about?" He goes, "I don't know." He goes, "But I'm really angry with you." And I said, "Okay." And he couldn't give reason. And I will tell you, all the things that happened that night, we asked him later, and he doesn't remember any of it. He doesn't remember.
Oh man. Oof.
Yeah, the influence was so bad. It was, and then later when you guys had come back downstairs, I remember he had gone off. He went outside. And we were talking, and I'm sitting there and I'm telling the girls, I'm like, this is what just happened, and it's really freaking me out. Like, I'm like, he's not right now. And they're like, yeah. And then suddenly we hear him on the porch, and he says, "Hey guys, I think I just heard something out here. Come outside." And I remember the three of us looking at each other, and without us, we didn't even have to say anything. It was like a knowing between the three of us that nothing was outside. It felt like he wanted us to get out of there fast. Like, he wanted us out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even remember who said it first, but someone was just like, "I don't think there's anything outside." Like, yeah, I know. And so we wouldn't go. Like, it was funny. Like, we wouldn't go out there with him. He's like, "No, come on. I think I just saw something. I think I saw something." And we're like, "No, we're okay." Like, I don't remember how we even got out of that situation, but it was this feeling. And we talked to him about that later as well. And he said, at the moment, he goes, "I didn't see anything. I knew there was nothing out there." He was like, "But I knew I needed to get you guys out of the house." He goes, "I wanted you out of that space. It was too much."
Mm-hmm.
So I think whatever was going on in there was influencing him, and was basically like, it wanted us out because it knew we were there to figure it out.
Yeah.
I don't think we necessarily, we didn't have any way to get rid of it necessarily, but I think it liked laying low. It liked the influence it had over the family, like, my ex and his kids. And then here we come along and we're like, "Hey, let's let's talk to it. Let's figure out what this thing is." And it was like, "Nah, get out of here." And that's kind of how it felt for me anyway.
Mm-hmm.
That is so scary. To me, this is all playing out like any of the scariest movies I've ever seen. Like,
It felt like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was probably one of our bigger experiences for investigation. And I will say the EVPs came back with very intelligent responses too. I know one of the experiences that my ex had was an evening. He was laying in bed, and his bedroom door had opened on its own. And so during the EVP, right? Yeah. So during one of the EVP sessions, he said, "Did you open my door?" And we listened back. And right after that, you can hear someone say, how did it go? Did they just say, "Open the door"? I think that's what they said.
No, I don't remember.
Do you remember? I think they just said, open the door, but it was just the inflection you could hear in this voice.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. And so we've got EVPs. If I can find, I know I have all this stuff on a hard drive somewhere. If I can find it, I'll post it so you guys can hear too. But there was another one where it was just, no, I think we had just done in one of the bedrooms upstairs. We had asked some questions and we really weren't getting anything. But as we were leaving, you could hear us, leaving that room. I picked up an EVP that said, come back. Come back.
Wow.
Yeah. The voice did not sound good to me though. Like it was like
okay.
very deep, and it sounded pretty scary to me, actually.
Oh, so it's not like an inviting voice or like, let's go hang with this spirit for a while.
Yeah.
No.
I'm glad we didn't hear that in real time.
Yeah.
So yeah, we did get that. But there was two, like the voices that we did pick up were very distinct. And I could tell the difference. And the one thing I noticed, and this is as an investigator is so frustrating to me, is we had gone downstairs to do an EVP session, and I had picked up, it was the same voices because they were both so distinct, but you could not understand what they were saying. You could hear that tone, like listening back to it, I could hear the tone of the voice, and they were full. I think, and it was Nicole, one of our investigators, who was asking these questions, and they were answering her completely. But you could hear the same two different tones that I'd heard upstairs, and they were just, full sentences, like, and it was so frustrating because I'm like, I can't understand a thing they're saying. And to this day, it's way too low. But you can hear that tone. But man, I would love to know what they were saying at the time, and if they were answering those questions intelligently. I have to assume. But yeah, that was our experience there. I know my ex-boyfriend was very upset because I wouldn't come visit very often.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that would keep me away. Like, you can hang out at my house. It's fine.
We did. We hung out a lot at my house. It's after a while it's uncomfortable. I know we had Gaby wasn't there this particular time, but Hayden, my son, he experienced something at the house, and I'd kind of forgotten about it until we started talking just now. He had an episode there that made me really not want to bring him there.
Yeah.
There was this particular part of the kitchen. I had seen my ex's, one of his daughters was staring one time into the corner of the kitchen. Like, she kept turning and staring into the corner. Like, and I'm just kind of watching her. We were eating dinner and she kept turning and staring, and then she'd come back and then she'd do it again. Well, Hayden, he actually had gone, and it was like, we were getting actually ready to leave. I don't even think my ex was even there. Like, I would come every once in a while and hang out with the kids. I would come over and bring my son. We would just hang out and do things. I would go over there like once a week for dinner while he was at work. And so Hayden would go, he was, this one particular time, he was just standing and staring at that corner.
Oh.
And I asked him if everything was okay. He's like, yeah, it's okay. And I said, well, we have to go. And he was like, no. And Hayden is not, he gives you no trouble. He gives his sister some trouble, right. But he really isn't. He doesn't get upset about things. If we say it's time to go, it's not an issue. And he kept saying, no, I'm not leaving. And then he would start saying, I'm not leaving this house. I'm not leaving this house.
Oh.
And I was like, we have to go. And I think I was kind of like taking him out, and he's screaming, no, I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave. And so we got him in the car. I got him in his car seat, buckled up. He's having a full blown tantrum, which he just doesn't ever do. And he's flailing. I put his seatbelt on. He takes his seatbelt off. He jumps out of his car seat and he goes running back into the house.
What?
Running back in. And my first thought, before we left, like, he loved my ex's kids. Like, I just thought maybe he didn't want to go. And they were all older.
Right.
They were all around, Gabby's age. He was the youngest, but he loved spending time with them. And I thought, oh, maybe he's just really sad. But then, um, my ex's son had to actually pick up Hayden and like carry him out like a sack of potatoes. And
Wow.
we couldn't believe it because he never acted like that before. And we got him in his seat. He was just thrashing in his seat. He just kept saying, I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave this house. And
That's so scary.
it was very scary. And I'll tell you, for 20 minutes straight, he screamed and cried, on the way home. He just kept screaming. And then all of a sudden he stops and he goes, who is that? And I said,
Oh.
I don't know. I said, what do you see? He said, and we're driving on the expressway, mind you. He goes, there's a man outside the window.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. He said, there's a man out there. And I said, okay. Like, but it was weird. Like, he immediately stopped. And then he said he saw somebody. And then his behavior completely changed. And that was that.
Maybe you outdrove him. You outdrove the spirit. You outran him.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
But that was the only time, like, and so that was the thing. Like, I didn't really want to go over there. I mean, I thought thing has such a hold and an influence on people. I didn't really want my child around that, and I didn't want to be around it. I mean, we were still experiencing things being there, like that feeling. I think we talked about this with when Amanda Marissa was on, that feeling of someone in bed, like we'd be laying in bed and you could feel someone, like a lot of times, like walking on the mattress or sitting. We both experienced that. So, I mean, it makes it hard to sleep when that's happening. Every time you go for a visit.
It's very exhausting to live in a house with spirits.
Yes. Yeah. It can.
It is.
But kind of like what Gaby said, I don't know that anybody really wanted to change anything over there. So I know these things are still happening, and it sounds like, according to like the last time I spoke with him, that things were almost kind of ramping up too. So, we wish them the best of luck.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I really am enjoying and also a little freaked out hearing other people's stories so much now that we've started doing this podcast. I keep, these stories keep coming, and, you guys sharing yours. And when I tell my story, you'll see there are so many similarities. I mean, it's enough different to make it unique, but very much of the same sort of things.
Okay.
And in a totally different state. It's just, it's interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah. I'm actually super fascinated by the fact that, because I do love doing research on things. And so I tried doing a little research on his house, and I found that his entire town has been pretty notorious, and his street actually. Street is kind of notorious for paranormal activity. There have been some very tragic events, like Gaby mentioned, the fire that had happened next door, and that had happened before he moved in. But there were, I think, 2 suicides that had happened across the street. One of the most interesting stories I read about was it was rumored that a man had drowned his young son in a bathtub in one of the homes on his street.
And I remember seeing the bathtub.
Okay. Yes. And people had witnessed, and this was just on a, like a board online, like just a board that people were adding stories to, that people had witnessed this. Like, I think it was supposed to be the boy, like, running down the street with the bathtub kind of like dragging.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that was kind of an interesting story. I know the cemetery in town, sightings of, the woman in white going on there. I do have a super quick funny story though about that cemetery. Like we've talked about this. I'm a weirdo and I was raised a weirdo. And so one of the things I like to do, I told you my dad and I would go for walks in the cemetery, but I'm a photographer and I like taking pictures of like old headstones and things like that. And that particular cemetery is like, it's a beautiful cemetery. It's old, it's older. There's a lot of old headstones. And one day I was there by myself taking pictures. They've got a lot of great statues too. And so there's these stairs that lead down to these group of like statues down below. So I had gone down the stairs. The road is just above the stairs. And there was this car that kept slowing down. Like it would drive past me and then would come around and drive past me again. I'm getting a little nervous because I'm like, what is this car doing? So finally it was these two women. They rolled the window down and they said, "Are you alive?" I said, "Yes." And they said, "Okay, we weren't sure if you were real or not."
That's hilarious.
So
They thought you were an apparition.
they thought I was a ghost that was taking.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And I kept thinking, I was like, is it like, do I look a certain way today? Like, is it because like it was like I'm coming out of winter and I'm pale? Like, I not wear enough makeup that day? Like, what's
That's
going
so
on?
funny.
But that's a true story, and it was so funny to me because are you alive? So
love that.
that cemetery is also supposed to be haunted. So really, like the whole town. And I
Yeah.
remember when Nicole showed up that day, she said, "I have a friend who went to school here. There is a college." And I said, "I don't even know if we should say the city. I don't know."
No,
There is
that poor college.
Right. Yeah, they'll never get anybody, but there is a private college there, and her friend went there. She's like, and he had told her, "Oh my gosh, that whole town is haunted." So yeah, I mean, it's everywhere. So it's interesting. So I do love hearing stories about that. But yeah, living it, as you know, Jaime,
Yep.
I'm just like, I'm good. I just kind of want to rest for a while from that. But
Right.
I'll go to other people's houses. I'll check out
Yeah.
their, but then I want to come home to my quiet ghost free.
Right. Right. You want that sanctuary where you can get rested up and not always feel like you're, being watched or poked or
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. So but we do have something else we kind of want to share. And I think this was kind of the moment where Gaby was like, "I'm good. I don't know that I want to do investigations anymore. I'm going to go to church and I'm not going to deal with this stuff anymore." So if you would like to share that, Gaby, we would love to hear.
Yeah. So we had a family friend. I had gone to school with both her kids, and we were all really close, and mom was posting, keeping tabs on what I was doing, and that we were going to houses and just kind of checking them out. And so we kind of got into the business where mom would take all of my phone calls if people wanted. She was my momager.
Became the momager, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that way I never knew what people were coming to see me for, or what I was going to go see. That way like my mom, she would always drive. Like I would just kind of get in the zone. So this family friend had called her and was like, "Hey, this is kind of what's going on. This is when we would like you to come check it out." And I didn't hear the conversation, but I was in the car and she hung up the phone and I was like, "I don't know who just called you." I was like, "But I don't want to go." There was just something about it. I immediately had all of these things flooding to me. I just heard addiction. I was seeing somebody like scratching on wood, like, and there was just like this demonic energy over them. And it was basically like latched to their body as if someone was like in a piggyback position. and it was just whispering in their ear, and it just kept repeating. I just heard like addiction, and it was just going into this cycle, and I was like, what is going on? And that's what I got. And I was like, is there somebody in the house that has an addiction or that has opened up a portal? I was like, something's not right here. And her stepson um was consistently creating Ouija boards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Ouija boards are a huge no.
Yep.
Anytime you're communicating with the dead, no matter
Mhm.
what it's coming from, like even being a psychic or a medium, when you are communicating with the dead and you're asking them to sit at your table, you are opening up a portal.
You're right.
So that's a huge reason why I did get out, is because even though psychics and mediums, you think you're doing a right thing, even if you do it for free, it's tough because you're still opening up to a world that we don't know anything about. We think we know, but there's so much to uncover that something can easily slip in.
Right.
And so it's a very dangerous game to play. And so he clearly started with one, thinking that it was a fun game, and
And
then
by
it became
himself too, right?
by
He was
himself.
Oh,
and that's a big no too. Like
no.
Yes.
using the Ouija.
Uh-uh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
So he would just pretty much have them in the house, and so then it opened something, and they started experiencing chaos within the house. And I just had this really sick feeling that we should just not go. And um pretty much the week leading up to it, because we got a call that, we got the call one weekend, and then we had a week before we were going, and I think we were going on like a Friday or a Saturday night. And that was truly a week from hell.
mhm.
I was living with mom at the time. We were not in the house that we're in now. Um, but we were experiencing so much. Our cat ended up bleeding out. We were
What?
Yeah, we found out
Yeah,
yeah, this is Fat Lucy too.
yeah,
This is the cat. I've named my
Oh,
production and companies after because we
oh
just
my gosh.
Fat
yeah.
Lucy.
Okay.
Yeah,
She
like Timber's like biting me now. Like, don't talk about
Oh
another
no.
cat.
like,
Like,
don't talk about her like that. Yeah, she ended up having cancer, but the cancer that week was like she was just urinating blood, and it was
Oh my
everywhere,
gosh.
all over the
yeah,
house.
yeah,
That's
we
so
had
Um,
her we
sad.
had taken her to the vet. I mean, it was like days. Like they were like because we took her when this was happening, and they came back. They're like she's got cancer, and then she was like gone within
Oh
yeah,
days.
no.
But
all
yeah, like
Wow.
all
yeah,
in this week. And so when there's also talk, like, the mouth is truly, the power of life and death. And so when you confirm something, or when you speak on something, you're speaking life into it. And so we had confirmed, we were like, okay, here's the date, this is when we're going. And that opened up our home to chaos, and it came in
yeah, it was
and it
wild.
came in hot.
Mhm,
My mom and her ex-boyfriend, they were together at the time, and it was heavy fighting.
mhm.
There was just a lot of commotion in the house spiritually, um, almost like wisps. You could see things just kind of running,
Oh.
bumbling.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
And I, again, I was still just like, I don't think we should go. I think this is just not going to be a good idea.
yeah, I felt bad. I was the one pressing her because I was
But
like,
the whole team was like, they were ready. Like, we
oh, we
had
were
our
so
whole
ready
team
to
going
go.
into
Yeah.
production. They were ready.
Right.
And
Yeah,
I remember it was Thursday. It was like the day before we were about to go. And I had gone to bed, and all of a sudden I woke up feeling this push at the end of my bed, like my bed was rocking. Um, and so I turn over, because I had this feeling that something was there, and I look up, and it's this 8 feet tall black being, and smoke
Oh.
was just pouring off of it, and it
Oh.
had bright red lights. Like when you look at a traffic light,
Mm-hmm.
that's how their eyes look.
Wow.
And spiritually, angels or demons, nobody speaks with their mouth. It's just like an intellectual understanding. But it's like you can still hear a voice. And I remember seeing it, and the smoke was was dripping off at the end of my bed. And it just stared at me. And it was this true understanding of, go any farther and more will happen. And so I
Oh,
like, and it was so quick, time travel,
yeah. Yeah.
it's so different on the other side. But I
Right.
remember looking at it, and it was just this understanding of, if I keep pushing it, I'm, whatever is allowed to happen is going to happen. Um, so I remember getting under my covers, and I was just like, Jesus is Lord. Like, I am not doing this anymore. I quit. And I had gone back to bed, and nothing else had happened. And I remember waking up that morning, and I was like, God, I cannot get out of this. I need you to do it for me. I am giving this all to you. I'm trusting you with this. And it was maybe an hour later, a couple hours later, we get a text or a call, and the woman was just like, there's just too much going on. We're just going to move.
Yeah, she was like,
Wow.
she was like,
Okay.
don't come.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it
Whew.
Like,
was,
stopped it for us.
yes,
Yeah.
Leave her and
God
go.
truly was
Amazing.
like, God was just like, this is not your place. This is
Yep.
not your calling. And so immediately I was like, okay, all right, I'm going to church. I'm not doing this anymore. I quit. So, it definitely turned the tables in my spiritual walk and my spiritual journey. And I feel like, you have two sides to this. You have the people who know that the spiritual realm is real, and then you have Christians who are telling them that they're going to go to hell if they keep going on this path.
Right.
And I'll be honest, it was never the people that were telling me that I'm going to hell that made me come to God. So
Right.
I think us as Christians, we need to understand that if you believe in God, you also need to believe in the devil. You also need to understand that demons are very real, and they pick you apart if you let them. So
Right.
I think the people with these spiritual gifts, I think, God gives us so many gifts. We were talking about, my friends and I were talking about the gift of discernment, and basically you just have this understanding of underlying things. You see things that maybe people don't see. You have the power of prayer and the power of healing. And I think sometimes, the devil can kind of twist gifts, and so they're not always for the right use. And so then you have this battle between two worlds. So in my personal opinion, I still have a lot of these gifts. I just don't use them in the way that I was using them. It was creating more chaos than it was creating good. When now I'm able to work with other people and practice healing and get them the help they need. Before it was just, I was coming in and I had no knowledge of what I was doing. We were
And we
inviting
didn't really
things
know
in.
what we were doing.
Yeah, and that's the thing, when you open these up, you just don't know what's going to come through. You have no clue, and nobody can prepare you for that. It's not like, because again, Jamie, I've heard a little bit about your story. Like, people were doing things purposefully. Like,
Right.
people
Yes.
had stirred up your house on
Yes.
purpose,
Yeah.
Yep.
So it really just depends, but it's so different over there that we have to be cautious about those things. So yeah, that's really what turned me. And especially when I had just been like pleading with God, and he was able to move so quickly, I was just like, okay, all right, you did me this favor. I'm gonna see what you're about.
Yeah.
So yeah,
100%. Yeah.
it's,
I get that. I
yeah,
feel like that was a close call for
yeah,
you. And I'm
Yeah.
glad you listened
Yeah.
to, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it probably needed to be stopped because I was fully ready to go. Like, I was ready. And that's
Yeah.
just like, I mean, we've talked about this. Like, I still go and I still do the things, right? I still Gabby's like, don't push it. And I'm like, okay. Then I go to
Can
all
we
these
push
haunted
it a
places.
little, just a
Yeah, I just want
little?
to push it a little. Yeah. And I had to laugh because the Ouija board thing, like, I have my original Ouija
she
board.
still has it in her
I do.
closet. I'm like, what are you
Oh,
doing?
Because so I love the look of a Ouija board. I just think Ouija boards are very, very cool
yeah.
looking. Like, I love the whole out, and so once again, my parents who raised me to be a weirdie, bought me this Ouija board.
Oh,
'Cause,
okay.
when I was probably like 8 years old.
Oh, wow. How
But
funny.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I
But
think
I
a
mean,
lot of
people
my
didn't
friends,
know. People didn't know. It was just like
it
a
was
game,
it's
Right.
So,
literally sold
yeah.
with I mean, and so I don't even remember necessarily asking for one. I bet you, like, I know some of my friends had them at that young. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, we were like 8, 9 years old when I got that thing. So I have it, and Gabby's like, "You need to burn that thing," and I'm like, "No, I won't." I'm like, "It's like an antique." I'm like, "There's no way. Like, this is a collectible item at this point, and
Yeah.
there's no way." And I have purchased another one. Like, I don't use them. I just think they look cool. And Gabby's like, you don't keep that in my house. Like, so when she moved in, we all moved in together, like, I keep them hidden in my room because I know her. She'll find them and she will go set them on fire. Like, she'll do
Yeah.
it. I know it. So I
Yeah.
have to, I keep them away because it was because I would always keep my Ouija board with like the rest of our, like, Monopoly and
Oh
Trouble,
my gosh.
Hungry Hippos. And there's my Ouija board in there too, like nothing. So I compromised and I took the Ouija boards out and I have them hidden in my room, but I can't get rid of them. I don't use them. I just like the way they
Yeah.
look.
Right. Do you like open them up and just look at them sometimes, or?
No, I haven't even done that. Like, I just like to have them in their
He's ridiculous.
That's so funny.
And
Oh my
I won't
gosh.
get rid of it. So I know when the time comes and I pass, it's going to be the first thing Gabby does. She's going to, "Where are her Ouija boards? We're setting those
They're
on fire."
out. Yeah.
I'm going to request to be buried with my Ouija boards so nothing happens to them.
You'll come in one day and Gabby's feet will just be sticking out from under your bed. She'll be looking for those Ouija boards
Right?
to get rid of them.
Yeah, there's actually, and you know what? Just a little, like, there's a museum here in Michigan. It's in Monroe, Michigan. If our listeners ever want to check it out, it's a horror museum. And they have probably one of the largest collections of Ouija boards I've
Oh,
ever seen.
wow.
So I was in
Okay.
heaven, went there, and it was just like they were covering the walls. I mean, just like old ones, new ones. And I was like, I'm so glad Gabby's not here because she would start praying for us or something. I don't know. But yeah. So yeah, so that situation completely, like, Gabby, like, you know, yeah, and which I love, which is good, which is like, you know,
and I'm glad they moved. I'm glad they got out of there. I mean, I think that was a good move on their part too.
I don't even really know what happened, but yeah, I think it was definitely affecting her stepson really, really bad. So I don't even know what came of the situation, but yeah, I mean, as much as I still love doing investigations and I will still keep doing investigations, I just, I do think, sometimes you have to just say no, because it's that situation is clearly beyond us. That's clear. We don't want to, you know, there's only so much. Like, I can deal with the grumpy spirit and, but I don't, you know, I mean, you know, Jaime, you know, you don't really want to cross boundaries with anything that's demonic.
No,
I'm
you don't.
ill-equipped there.
No,
So, yeah.
no thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks so much for sharing these. This is like the scariest episode so far, I think.
And
I got chills and goosebumps throughout this whole thing. And a lot of it was because of the things I could relate to. And a lot of it was just, that's a lot that you've gone through a lot. Thank you so much for telling your stories. That's just,
Yeah.
Like,
I'm so glad. Thanks, Gabby, for coming on. Yeah, I appreciate Gabby doing this. Gabby is a little on the fence. I mean, she's super supportive of our podcast, but I know Gabby's a little on the fence about us still messing with the paranormal.
Right.
So I do appreciate you coming on. Like, this has been great. It's been fun telling these stories and going back. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, for coming today and listening to all of our spooky stories, all of our special mystery stories. So thank you so much. And if you have a story of your own, you can reach us by email, which is unexplainedarchives2025@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you so we can share your stories on the show. You can also follow us on Facebook at the Unexplained Archives. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram, because everything we talk about during the show, we we post pictures and all kinds of good stuff to go along with our stories. So make sure to follow us on Instagram at the Unexplained Archives 25. So thank you guys. Thanks, Gaby.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye, you guys.
Bye. We'll see you next week. Woo.